शिप पे खाना कैसा होता है?
आई थिंक दुनिया में अगर कहीं सबसे बढ़िया खाना होता है ना, वो शिप पे होता है.
What is with pilots and their obsession with Ray-Bans? When we fly commercial, there's a point when the pilot comes on and tells the passengers about the height the plane is flying at. But ये जान के passengers क्या करेंगे? I really haven't been given enough occasions to talk to somebody, a Kashmiri Pandit, who actually was there when the Exodus happened in the early 90s.
My dad went out around 7:30 p.m. in the evening. And he gets back at 10:30. He said, pack your bags. Each one of you just take your essentials and we're going. As kids, that are we going on a vacation? The adolescence part of it. When I watched this series on Netflix, now the protagonist in this is Jamie Miller. And he is a 13-year-old boy who's been charged with murder. I was a 2-year-old boy when I was, detected with nephrotic syndrome. After I joined the Navy, the standard procedure is after you join the Navy, you opt for Naval Aviation. So on a Saturday night, we were shown a movie, Top Gun. I was so impressed by Lieutenant Pete Mitchell. I rushed to the nearest Archie's gallery, got the poster and stuck it in my cupboard. I didn't know that Lieutenant Pete Mitchell was part of the US Navy and not the Indian Navy.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of In Our Defense, where I, your host Dev Goswami, bring you people from the military who've served in the military, veterans who recount their experiences in the forces, their training to be in either the Indian Navy, the Air Force, or the Army. And today with me is Commander Naveen Pandita. He was with the Indian Navy. He's commanded an air squadron. He's commanded a ship. He was a second in command of 2 warships. And he retired in 2023. Thank you, Commander, so much for being on this podcast. Before we began rolling, you asked that when you were contacted by one of our producers, you asked her, why me? Well, the simple answer for why me, Commander, is that we just want stories. And we think that people who've been in the forces, who've served the country, they have some of the best stories to tell. And that's why you. So thank you so much for coming in.
The pleasure is all mine. Thanks for having me over.
Yeah. And what does it feel like to you right now, actually, with 3 cameras pointed out at you, a couple of mics in front of you? What does it feel like?
I think I'm at ease.
You're at ease.
I not seen so many cameras before, but I think we've seen enough of ammunition in the life, so it's okay.
Right. That's a good answer. So you've seen ammunition, so what are cameras for you, right? Right. Commander, before we, talk about you, I want to ask you a very controversial question. And this is the question I had asked Shiv Arur, my previous guest on season 2. Do naval aviators think and feel that they are better than Air Force pilots?
So I think that's a very, very tough question for me to answer. But then, if I'm being biased towards the Navy, I would say hands down, naval pilots are any day better than the Air Force pilots. But then, yes, we train together. And of course, the missions undertaken by both the services, Air Force and the Navy, are different. And so different challenges. So I would say I would put them at par.
Yeah.
Being the sister service, the Air Force, I would not let them down.
Right. But, when you get at get-togethers, whether it's a sort of an ND alumni meet or an because you are from RIMC, Rashtriya Military College, or a alumni meet of that particular school, and you come across your people from the Air Force whom you've studied together, do you kind of get into those banter rivalries ki yaar, dekho yaar, best to main hi hu ultimately yaar?
See, that I think that's not limited to defense. In case if you go, if you have a drink with your peer group or, you catch up with them on a social occasion, you will have a banter like you are India Today channel. You will have a banter with an NDTV. So I think that's all part of the game.
Right.
But yes, finally, serve together. In fact, trained together for some time and then trained in the National Defense Academy together. So I think it's more of the bonhomie, camaraderie and the old stories which generally are the flavor of the evening rather than fighting out it with each other that who's better and who's doing best.
Right. I guess that kind of also relates to what you're doing now. You're a commercial pilot now, and I've seen many online forums where pilots who fly Boeing versus pilots who fly Airbus, they have this rivalry, so to speak, because I mean, one of the biggest differentiators in both these, the cockpits of both these planes, is that Boeing goes for that joystick approach while Airbus goes for that old school yoke approach. And I've seen so many different forums online where pilots battle it out. Oh, this is better and that is better. I'm guessing even that applies there as well.
So I think I will, put a little correction to it. The Boeings are the yoke guys,
Ah, sorry. Okay.
and the Airbus guys are the
Ah.
joystick guys. Yeah, of course, we do have banters wherein are you even flying the aircraft? It's the machine which is flying, and
Oh yes.
the real fun is the Boeing pilots who actually fly the aircraft. So that banter goes on every
Yeah.
time we catch up with each other.
Right, right. And that's going to happen on the comments of this episode as well, because like you corrected me very rightly. So there are going to be people on the comment section who are going to be like, hey, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about because I made a mistake over there. Uh, right. Commander, let's talk about your life. I really haven't been given enough occasions to talk to somebody, a Kashmiri Pandit, who actually was there when the Exodus happened in the early 90s. I think I forget how old you were. I think you must have been around in your teens or barely in your teens.
I was exactly 9.5, 10 years
10
old that
years,
time.
10
Yeah.
years. 10 years when your family moved from Kashmir to Jammu. This was in 1990, if I'm not wrong, is what you
Yes.
told us. And this was right at the beginning of the Exodus that led to thousands of Kashmiri Pandits then being displaced and being forced out of the valley. Uh, what memories do you have of this event?
While I did brief you earlier that I was not well for a long time. I
Yes.
was homeschooled, so I was finally finding friends in the school. So from the age of 6 to 10, I was I allowed to go to school.
Hmm.
So we could see those telltale signs wherein the school started getting shut more often. The frequency of me going to the school became once a week, and we used to hear gunshots. We used to have stone pelting quite often. So and a standing operating procedure for us during that time was that you go on to the last room of the house, switch off all the lights.
Okay.
So that is the kind of things which are brewing in Kashmir at that point of time. And that is when my parents, although we were not privy to a lot of
Hmm.
conversations they had, but this is they decided that we must leave if we are not safe here anymore.
Hmm.
I have two elder sisters, who were asked to be extra careful while going to the school, coming back from school. My mom, I don't know whether you know the Mangal Sutra of a Kashmiri
Yes.
woman is the dejur which she wears around her ear. So she was a teacher, and she stopped wearing it. So when you correlate all these circumstances, and then your parents one fine day they decide that we must move out of this place, and my dad went out around 7:30 p.m. in the evening,
Hmm.
and he gets back at 10:30. He said, pack your bags,
Wow.
each one of you just take your essentials, and we're going. So initially we thought as kids that are we going on a vacation, but yes, there's the sense of uncertainty that what's going to happen next did exist, did loom at that point of time in all our minds. So we picked up our essentials, and a bus was hired by my father with along with other relatives and friends. And by the midnight, we were all taking one bag each with our bare essentials, and just we moved out of Kashmir. So for me, if you ask me, um, it was no less than a Bollywood flick
Hmm.
in terms that you're certainly asked to pack your bags. As a child, all you're expecting to pack your bags for a vacation,
Yeah.
but this wasn't a vacation. So similar. In fact, I was a 9, 10-year-old boy that time. My sisters were teenagers; they were elder to me. They had a sense, but my parents never wanted to have that impression formed in our minds at that point of time, and they never kept us privy to any of the
Hmm.
conversations which were related to the turmoil which was happening in Jammu and in Kashmir that point of time. So that's it, it just at midnight we left Kashmir, and least did we know that we're not coming
Not
back
coming
here
back.
anymore. So I think that says it all.
When was it in your life that you finally came to know about what actually had happened, and not just to your family but to the community at large, to the Kashmiri Pandits at large, of what the situation in the valley was, why they had been forced to flee and move out of their homes, and that they were never probably gonna go back? At what point in your life did you actually come face to face with that reality?
So when we moved to Jammu, we were fortunate that our grandfather had a house in Jammu that used to be a winter home,
Right.
winter vacation home. So we had a shelter over our, a roof over our head, if I may say. But then when I saw my friends, who were staying in tents, and people who are not used to more than 29, 30 degrees of temperature in Kashmir suddenly saw 42, 43 and living in tents. And the stories they narrated to me, and while I visited them in their tents, that is the time the reality hit me that, oh, something is amiss, and we've been actually uprooted from a place wherein which you call heaven on earth, and now we don't know what has hit us, because there was no concept of having a cooler or an air conditioner or a refrigerator in Kashmir, because the weather was so nice. We never needed it that time. And suddenly, you realize that people are looking out for fans, table fans, whoever had as much money, whatever they could afford to comfort themselves. This is what happened. And that is the time the reality struck that, yes, there's something which is things which came naturally to us, as in, the kinds of eats which were bought home, and the kind of clothes we wore in Kashmir. Suddenly we saw that, not that we asked our parents for clothes, but we saw, yes, the frequency was getting lesser. We were repeating a lot of dresses. So that is how it sunk in to me. I became a teenager in Jammu, whereas my sister, she just passed her 12th. She was 18 already, and she had to go for higher studies. So my father, struggling with, whatever money he had, fend for my sister's education, my education. And I know it's a very funny thing, although I have nothing against the Kendriya Vidyalaya, but I was put into a Kendriya Vidyalaya because the fee was only 5 rupees.
Okay.
So I think that is where the bills which they had to pay for my illness back home in Kashmir, I think that is the only way I could compensate, that my fees per month was only 5 rupees.
Wow.
So I think these are small telltale signs, or, I would say, if you just add up these things for a 13-year-old boy, I think that is how I could make out that something has happened. And, we're not as comfortable. We're not living the life we lived in Kashmir. Jammu is a different place. And again, at the cost of repetition, I think we were lucky that we still had a roof on our head, and, we stayed in concrete house. But rest of the Kashmiris, I think they had a horrid time, especially a businessman.
Yeah.
There was no banking system that time. So whatever money in there, in colloquial words, when you call the galla, whatever money he had in his galla, he took it on, he spent it in Jammu.
Wow.
Whereas, people who are government servants, yes, the government did make a lot of effort in rehabilitating Kashmiri Pandits. They did help out a lot. But then, my parents, my mom and dad, both were government servants. They did get their monthly salaries. But a businessman who had nothing to do in Jammu, as soon as the money finished, he was left with nothing. So I think that is when, because my relatives were also businessmen. So we saw the kind of, living standards they had in Kashmir, and now what they are having here in Jammu, it was completely poles apart. It had taken a 180-degree shift. So that is how, when you realize that, something is a mess. And then when you hit your teenage, then you also start reading up. And then, the people talk about it. That, people from Jammu, although they did accommodate us well, but then they also tell you that why have you come here. So I think the reality struck with the live conversations with people, and the kind of interactions we had with our rest of the brethren, Kashmiri brethren, or the Jammu people. I think that added up together, and it's told us that, yes, it's not a great condition to be in. And you have changed places. The weather is different. The geography is different. In fact, I still have some people I know who don't know the actual difference between Kashmir and Jammu.
Yeah.
They are part of the same union territory, but the weather,
Yes.
the geography is completely different. The language is spoken is different. So these things are alien to people. People go up to Katra, they go visit Vaishno Devi and come back. And there are some people who fly directly to Kashmir for, tourism part of it, and they come back. They don't know that the kind of lives these two regions in the same union territory, they lead a different kind of a life. The temperatures are phenomenally different from each other. And, it's like Delhi hitting you in Jammu in terms of temperatures and the kind of clothing which we wear. So I think these were some of the things which actually made me understand that, yes, everything is not hunky dory now, and there is a difference.
Yeah.
You have come to a different battlefield now.
Yeah. I suddenly feel so privileged, hearing your story, because I'm just like, when you were recounting this story of yours, I kind of went back to my teenage years, my childhood, and suddenly I feel like, hey man, I've had such a great life then. I mean, I used to be back then complain about, "Ye kaisa life hai? What is this? So parents are like this, the world is like this, there are so many restrictions, this and that, this and that." But suddenly all of that seems so minuscule when I compare that to what you've just described, and I'm guessing that is what you feel for the others, like you said right now, that you still feel lucky compared to what others had to go through. uh, right, so from there, RIMC, Rashtriya Indian Military College, you've had a childhood of hardship. Like you said, and you had briefed me before this recording, that you suffered from some major kidney illness when you were around 6 or 7 years old. You sort of recovered from that, and then the exodus happened. You moved to Jammu, and then you went to RIMC. RIMC, if I'm not wrong, starts at class 8. So
Eight.
I'm guessing you must have been around
13 exactly.
yeah, exactly, 13 when you went to this college, which sort of acts as the feeder school for the NDA. Now, Commander, I'll be very honest with you. I have a sort of I envy you for being at the RIMC, and I have a point of not contention, but I didn't tell you this before. I actually applied for the NDA after my college. Sorry, after my class 12, and I went to the SSB. I had the full 5 day thing. I did the first day. I was cleared with the first day, and I did the whole 5 day interview. And what I noticed on the final day, the day of the conference, is that a majority of the candidates selected were either from Sainik schools or from RIMC. So I am like, भाई यार, like इनको तो already training मिल गया है, इनको तो already मतलब सिखा दिया गया है यार. मतलब मैं तो मतलब मुंबई का बंदा, urban, I don't have any much knowledge about the life of military. I'm at a disadvantage. But anyway, I'm just kidding. But tell us about RIMC, and very crucially, how did you end up being there? Because for somebody like me, so after class 12, I decided to wanted to apply for the NDA. So I already had those 4 or 5 years being in class 10, 11, 12, seeing the world, getting a sort of an idea कि हाँ ये मुझे करना है. But RIMC starts at class 8, 13 years old, like you said, right at the beginning of your teenage years. Did you decide that you want to go for the school, or were it your parents who said कि इनको वहाँ भेजेंगे? How did you end up being there, and what was life at RIMC all about?
Okay, this is a very the story. In fact, I told you I went to a Kendriya Vidyalaya.
Yes.
My fee was only 5 rupees. So we stayed in a house which was in the outskirts of Jammu. This was later when my dad finally decided that we should also construct a house after 20 people staying in a 4-bedroom house where all my uncles and everybody was there. So we shifted there, and there was a school just next door. So when I joined the school, when I started my 8th grade in the 6th grade in Kendriya Vidyalaya, I realized by virtue of me, I used to be that topper material when I was up to 5th grade in Kashmir,
Right.
97, 98% and all that. And suddenly I realized that my profession, my mental acumen is not being exercised. Maybe I'm not getting that kind of a competition kind of a thing. The children were nice, and when children who go to schools in far-flung areas will generally be from around those areas, not a kind of an exposure I had got in Kashmir. So my mental faculties were not being sent. I kept cribbing to my dad that, "Dad, please change my school." And least did I know that time he will not change my school, because we were in almost a financial crunch that time, fending for 3 children at that point of time. So one of my dad's acquaintances, he said there's a school in Dehradun, and आप अपने बच्चे को it's a UPSC entrance examination, and 1 seat per state, आप अपने बच्चे को वहाँ भेज दो, and उसका life set हो जाएगा. So now least did I know that it was a boarding school. It was a feeder institution to National Defense Academy and Naval Academy. I had no clue. I have no I have no one from my older generations in the forge, no exposure to the forge at all, and neither does my dad have any. He says, if you want to change your school, this is what my dad said, if you want to change your school, there's a school in Dehradun. You have to qualify the exam, and if you qualify the exam, I send you to a better school. That is
Right.
the only way I can change your school. So this was sometime in November 1992 when my form was filled and I was to appear for the exam in Feb 93, if I'm not wrong with the dates. So I did prepare a lot because this was my only and only chance to change my school. I
Mm.
wasn't quite happy, not only in turn, because the facilities also were not all that great in that
Mm.
school. In fact, some of the classrooms were held even in tents. So that
Okay.
is the state of the
Wow.
school out there. So I prepared for it, and there's a funny story here. I did, after writing an exam those days, you had to appear for the interview immediately. Not
Okay.
that you cleared the written exam and then
Right.
they call you. The interview was held on a second day, on the along with the written examination. So my there was a panel of 5 people sitting. I don't know who they were, and they asked me that why do you want to join the army and not navy and air force. You have a defense comprises of 3 branches,
Mm.
you can join them. I said, I am born on earth and I think I can serve my country best on land. I don't know how I got this answer, but I just blurted out, and all of them are looking at me. I said, yeah, this 13-year-old boy, he has said something.
Uh,
Least did I know that that answer will actually facilitate
yeah.
other than my returns to move into RIMC. So I got selected and went to RIMC. Now I am also the third child.
Mm.
That Ma ka ladla and the
Yes.
youngest son. So now my mom did, she asked me, do you want to go? Typical that mother and son
Mm.
conversation. I said, Mama, ये मेरा अकेला chance है school change करने का. So whatever it is, I will go in and join RIMC. Least I had absolutely no clue what RIMC was all about. It's only when I entered the school, when I saw the campus, and I saw the kind of facilities which they offer,
Mm.
I was floored and overwhelmed to a large extent. In the RIMC itself, we were around 26 of us who had joined from various states
Mm.
across the country. Out of them, I think 22 or 23 of us are in the are or were in the forces.
Services. Mm.
So in Jammu and Kashmir, although both the places I was in an English medium school, but English language was still foreign to me.
Okay.
In terms, I would hear something, and if I have to reply back to somebody, I will first
Right.
translate in Hindi, then translate in English, and just put it out to people that this is what I want to, this is how I want to respond to your questions. And at RIMC, the first English literature book we had was Great Expectations by Charles
Oh,
Dickens.
I've read that. Yes. CBSE, right? Same. That's why. Yes.
So, and the teacher we had, now she explained it beautifully. Least did she know that people listen to me, convert it into Hindi,
Mm.
understand it, and then try and answer the questions. Now a topper, who's been getting 97, 98% all his, tenure, or you call all his life till 7th grade, suddenly lands up at 75% marks and 15th in the class.
Oof.
So that was a shock to me. I
Mm.
said, yeah, what has just happened? Now, this is of course, it took me some time to stabilize in the coming term. Then I started getting better. That's beside the point. But the other things which I want to bring out here is the kind of facilities
Mm.
RMC gave us at that point of time. When I asked my peer group, what is river rafting, what is parasailing, nobody had a clue. And there was no Google Baba at that
Yeah.
time. You could just punch in and you check the photographs, what is parasailing, what is involved, and what is river rafting. And sports like boxing. I boxed 5 years in RIMC.
Wow.
So those things, the kind of equipment which we had for cricket, football, and we had inter-school competition. Dehradun as such is known for
Mm.
a lot of inter-school competition. We had Doon School as our main rivals. We went to Sanawar Lawrence School, Sanawar. There used to be chair girls, cheering. I'm talking of 94,
Wow.
95. So getting an exposure of that kind was a turning point for my life too. I learned phenomenal amount of, I had got a phenomenal amount of exposure in RAMC. Now, the best part about the school is while it is the curriculum is it is CBSE normal, all books are similar. We also, the routine it puts it in, the routine which we undergo throughout that is very, very similar to National Defense Academy or NAVAC. You get up in the morning 5:30, make your bed, do your routines, and go up for a physical training or a drill or something like that. Quickly come back, shower, breakfast was 10 minutes. You hardly had any, you were always rushing against time. And the most important thing which I learned in RIMC was survival skills. This is how you survive. Whether you like the food, you don't like the food, you need to fill your stomach, you need to be in time, you need to be in the correct dress. I think those things that early in life uh, puts you in a place which, as you mentioned, on a higher pedestal than somebody who has no exposure. And then the stories we heard about, the school, Somnath Sharma, Major Somnath Sharma, the first Paramveer Chakra of India, was an alumni of my school. We have 6 chiefs, which
Yes.
school has given to India today, starting from Thimaiya, Gigi Bivur, General, all these people. So I think the stories we heard, the curriculum we underwent, so we were, I would certainly say that we were at a higher pedestal. We were more prepared. And then the best thing about the school was the learning which I got was, if you are appearing for a service selection board, you better tell them the truth.
Yes.
Because they're so
Very true.
experienced. They're so experienced. They'll catch you lying. You tell them that, your hobby is reading. And then they'll ask you about, okay, which is your favorite book? Then they'll get into nitty-gritties. Which other books have you read? He said, whatever you've done, if you just stick to your basics, they will be convinced faster. So I think by God's grace, this is how I ended up, navigating through those 5 years and then finally landed up at National Defense Academy.
I completely get your point about being honest at the SSB because I remember this one question the IO, the interviewing officer, asked me during the interview round. Not to say I was lying, but this just tells you the strategy that they employ. So I think you are supposed to fill a PIO, if I'm not wrong, a personal identification, something,
Information something.
information something, yeah, information something on day one of your SSB, and at the interview round, he kind of looks over it and asks you some questions. So he began by asking me, from between your father and your mother, whom are you closest to? And I ended up saying my father. Honest answer, I think at that point of time. But then he said, yeah, but in your PIO form, when it comes to emergency contact, you listed your mother. Why? And I was stunned. I was like, how do I answer that now? But that kind of gives you the thought process. I'm not saying he was trying to trick me. I'm not saying that I was lying or he was implying I was lying. But this is the sort of questions that they ask you to kind of really get to know you. Because they know you're kind of scared. You're kind of, nervous, so they want to know you, and I'm guessing that's where it comes from. But yeah, now that you've said you've talked about your life at RIMC, I can totally understand why on day 5 I think 50 of us were left after day 1. Day 1 had around 150 and then 100 were screened out first day. 52 were left, and of those I think only around 10 or 11 odd made it, and I think majority of them were from either RIMC or Sainik schools, and I kind of now understand why that happened. Right, Commander. We'll move to now NDA, the next step of your military training career, and a very interesting time for you. You joined in January 1999, just a few months before the Kargil conflict broke out along the LOC with Pakistan. So any day, any episode, I'd ask any officer about the life in NDA. That would make for an interesting story, but yours would make for a more interesting one because you join in Jan. 6 months later, when I think the next batch is sort of joining in, and you are like one batch senior now in the academy, you have this conflict breaking out. Did you boys at that time even know what was happening out there? Because NDA, as far as I can understand, is also quite insulated, right? They have very strict rules about what sort of information comes in, goes out, because they have strict regulations on the kind of devices you can have. I'm pretty sure you guys also must have cheated and found a way to have some radio or something to, bahar kya ho raha hai malum karne ke liye. But anyway, did you know what was happening on those mountains, on those hills over there? And did that impact the routine, that mindset, not just of yours, of your batchmates, of your seniors, of the juniors who were coming in any way, even of the teachers, the ustads, the commandants, the professors, etc.? Did that in any way impact life at the NDA in any manner?
So Dave, I was 18 that time, to put it in perspective. So the only time we had an inkling that something was happening when we were back home for our typical holidays.
Right.
So the academy routine as such, and when you just go through the routine, you have no time to breathe.
Hmm.
So if you have no time to breathe, the only thing you're looking out is you're looking out that your outdoor training
Hmm.
that's happening. There was no change in the outdoor training. Your classes were happening as normal. And then at that age, when you're not trained enough to fight at the front, so effectively the Indian Army or the Air Force and the Navy, nobody can pull you out for that
Of
from
course.
that cradle and directly put you at the front. So as far as the training is concerned, I think nothing changed for us. uh, yes, we did hear stories and things were happening, but otherwise I didn't see a difference. I can't actually recollect
Hmm.
that this happened because 1999
Right.
conflict was happening. And a typical NDA cadet, all he needs is if he's to reach in time, he needs his proper dress because the drill starts. They ended up shouting us at with the same fervor that they were shouting at us, or our seniors
Yes.
before the Kargil conflict or after the. So nothing changes in the training in the
Hmm.
National Defense Academy. But yes, but yes, I would say that during our vacations, when we had more access to television, radios, we did, we did hear those stories. And of course, since we have joined the forces, we are at the training academy. So, your blood also boils
Hmm.
with that fervor that, yes, I need to go and fight. But then, yes, at that point of time, so early in the training, I don't think so it did make any difference to us at all that what was actually happening at the
Hmm.
front.
Hmm. Right. So tell us, more about the training itself, not just at NDA. You passed out of NDA, then you went to Naval Academy, and briefly also for 1 year you were trained at the Air Force Academy for flying duties. Uh, the overall training, the military training that you've received in, I'm guessing, 3 years of NDA, 1 year of INA, and I'm guessing some months or 1 year at, so around I'm guessing 5 years of initial training, because I also know, by the way, yes, officers have to train a lot more even after they join services and have to read up a lot more. But the initial 4 or 5 years of training that you've had, the military training that you've had, how has it shaped you as a person? Obviously we know that's it's helped you become an officer in the military, but I'm talking more about how that military training has sort of shaped you as a person, and the sort of strict discipline that they have. And if you can confirm this one story, so I think one of my uncles, yes, one of my uncles was in the NDA. He's now in the Coast Guard because he had to be boarded out because of an accident, and he was declared medically unfit to be in at the three services, but then he could join the Coast Guard. uh, he told me this story, so if you can confirm it, I don't think he lied to me, but still I wanted to confirm it, that in India you have the strict rules about when you can write letters back home. This is back then when you had letter writing. So when you can write letters back home, and one night or one day he kind of breached that time limit by 5-10 minutes, and next day he was called out during the daily drill, and he was said, okay, you'll be punished. And every Sunday apparently the cadets are allowed to go out to Pune. But that Sunday, he was said, no, you will not go out, and instead you will go running up this mountain near Khadakwasla. The India has a mountain nearby. And he told me very laughingly and very said कि also they sent an ambulance behind us telling us कि टेंशन मत लो, अगर आप गिर गए ना, हम आपको
Muthal.
ट्रांसपोर्ट कर देंगे वापस एम्बुलेंस में. ऐसा होता है क्या वहाँ पे?
This is true. In fact, what he's mentioned to you is absolutely true. Because if you're faltering on those timelines or discipline anywhere, you will get punished. And if I tell you a story, you will laugh your guts out that why I was punished.
Please.
NDA. So in the sixth term, we have something known as a NDA ball.
Hmm.
So it is exactly, it's like culminating your hard training over 3 years, and this is the first formal event. You get to invite your ball partner. So the six termers go to Pune Liberty, FC Road or MG Road. So this is what exactly happened, and a month prior to our this, we were sent out on Liberty every Sunday.
Hmm.
That please go and manage your ball partners. Don't show us your sad faces on that day. So, the same thing. I also went on a Liberty one day, And I ended up going to FC Road. Now, before the FC Road starts, there's a junction where an Archie's gallery is there.
Okay.
So we were three course mates. Both of them had already managed. I was the last one to manage a ball partner. So, typically that boys mentality, mard ban ja, pooch le usse kinds, go and ask somebody. So I finally mustered the courage, and, I just went across, and I said, I'm extremely sorry. Would you, it's difficult for me to say, but would you be my ball partner? There's a ball coming up here. And I think I was lucky. I was very lucky. She said, yes, I don't mind. Hi, I'm Priyanka. It was first who called her, it was her who called her name out first. And then I said, okay, I am Naveen. So I invited her for a cup of coffee. There was a CCD which had recently opened. So we had that cold coffee sandwich. And finally, all information was exchanged. There were no phones those days. And only I told her that on this so-and-so date, there'll be a bus which will come here exactly outside on the FC road. And there'll be other girls, other ladies who will be coming for the NDA ball. Please do come in and I'll be there to receive you at the NDA. She said fine, and that is how meeting. I was very happy, enthusiastic, the 19, 20-year-old boy in me. And I went back home, bragged to my course-mates. I've managed, and she's very pretty. I managed a ball partner, and she's very pretty. And next day, it was a Monday, my squadron commander, Major Rathore asked me, 6 all of you have ball partners? Yeah. Naveen, you have one. You were the last one left. I said, yes, sir. I have one. Very, emphatically, as if I had won a war, that, I finally managed a ball partner. So finally, the day came, and the NDA ball was that day. We were waiting at the bus stand. As the ladies get down, we escort them to the venue. So the one bus was empty, second bus became empty, and third bus, and my ball partner just didn't turn up. She stood me up. And
Wow.
I wasn't unhappy about, that my ball partner hasn't turned up. I was unhappy about that now when my squadron commander meets me, what face am I going to show? Because I bragged to my course-mates also that Priyanka is a very, very pretty girl. So I landed up at the venue, without a ball partner. And to my, as luck would have it, Major Rathore met me exactly 15 minutes into the ball. The ceremony had started, it was the vibe was beautiful, like that typical NDA ball. So he asked me, where's your ball partner? Why won't you introduce her to me? I said, sorry, sir, she didn't turn up. I said, very unofficer-like. Please meet me in the squadron office tomorrow in drill order. I said, fine. Now I was already upset that my ball partner hadn't turned up. And then I met my squadron commander, and he gave me a earful. And finally, one of my course mates had got 3. So I borrowed one, and, I ended up having a dance. I laughed around. Next day, when I had to go to the squadron commander's office, and I was the cadet sergeant major of the squadron, an appointment in the squadron, and I went in drill order because he'd called me in drill order. So he gave me an earful. This is not expected out of you. You're an appointment. You're a CSM. You're supposed to be leading by example. You just couldn't convince a lady to come be your ball partner. That was not the end of it. That bashing I took, fortunately, he did not, he only scolded me that time. He didn't send me on Singer, or, didn't send me for endurance training or something like that. The worst part was yet to come. Because when I got out of the squadron office, there were other course-mates of mine. The complete gang was waiting for me because they wanted to know what exactly has happened inside and whatever I would have told them. And for the next 15 to 20 days before my passing out, I was harassed by my course-mates like crazy. So you can get punished for anything. So I'm saying this is an example which, when I narrated the same story to my wife, she can't believe it. Maybe she'll verify it with somebody else at a later date. So NDA discipline and things, anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just think about it. I mean, like, if a girl you've asked on a date, she doesn't show up, and your biggest worry is not that she hasn't shown up, but कि यार major साहब क्या करेंगे अब?
True.
Right, Commander. So yeah, the larger question though, I mean, this discipline, this training, what does it do to a person? And also, are there breaking points? Are there points where you feel like यार मुझे नहीं करना है, छोड़ छाड़ के भाग जाना है? I can think of the movie Laksh, if you've seen it, where of course there's this moment in the movie where Hrithik Roshan, who's playing then a cadet in the IMA, where he basically runs away from the academy because he just could not take it. He could not take the discipline, the strictness, etc., etc. Did anybody in your course, have you heard of a story among your seniors or juniors who've reached those breaking points? What do you do when you reach those breaking points? And yes, the larger question, that this discipline, this training, what does that do to a person in their life?
Okay, the first thing, I will not say majority, I will say a minority of people who join the National Defense Academy do, they reach that breaking point. But, academies are so beautifully made. And the counseling which happens at the academy, and then your own course mates, they help you out so much so that they try and make your life comfortable. Your seniors make your life comfortable. So I would say the ratio would be a minuscule ratio of people who actually take a step like what Hrithik Roshan did in Laksh. There are people who board out because of medical reasons.
Right.
Some people have immense, some kind of a stress fracture which cannot be, or they're not able to run. Some people who cannot pull the beams, they're really, really struggling despite the PT ustads, the drill ustads, spending so much time with you. If you fail something once, there are drill ustads correcting you for it, helping you to, achieve those standards. So that continues. So it's only, I would say, 0.01%. And that also, the academy routine is such that, and the environment is such, they always pull you along. That camaraderie, the thing you must have heard of. I think it starts with pulling your course mate along. Whatever he is weak at, he could be weak at academics, he could be weak at PT, he could be weak at drill. So the course mates themselves or the seniors themselves will take extra classes for him, whatever little time they have with themselves to help out everyone. It's a dream. The Antim Pug of National Defense Academy, to cross that with your course is a dream. And everybody helps you to, follow that path and, takes you along as far as possible. There are a lot of people, there are some people who have failed, who boarded out of academy because they could not jump from a 10-meter board.
Okay.
No, they're so scared. In fact, I was scared. Yeah, I was scared when I was a first termer. I climbed the 10-meter board, and all this while I wanted to be a Lieutenant Pete Mitchell, a pilot, and I didn't know that I was actually scared of height.
Wow.
In the school, the max I had climbed was 3 meters board, and 3 meters board is hardly anything. All some people feel scared even there. But then when I first time climbed the 10-meter board and I looked down, I said, yeah, what is this? Is this a matchbox? Am I actually going to fall into the pool, or am I going to be falling outside the pool? And there was PT Ustad, and he says, cadet, jump kyun nahi kar raha hai? So now what do I tell the PT Ustad ki, sahab, mere ko to pilot banna hai, lekin mere ko to height se dar lag raha hai. And in the academy, the first termers jump in the end.
Wow.
They're not the first ones to jump because now people before me, the 6th termer, 5th termer, 4th termer, so on and so forth, the first termer, he sees everybody jumping, and now you're the last one to jump. So, you will get motivated that, yaar, itne logon ne jump kiya, nothing has happened to any of them. So why will something happen to me? But then when I walked up, it's not like you're with your friends and, halle gulle mein, yay, and, you jump off a 10-meter board. It's a proper drill. You need to take step ahead, then the second step ahead, look up and just go into the water.
Wow.
Now, following the drill from a 10-meter board, people may find it funny, but it's not funny when you stand there. And the other thing which happened was 6th term, when I was a cadet sergeant major, the tradition of the SCON was that I was supposed to be jumping the first in the squad. But I had jumped this 10-meter board, first term, second, so many times I had spent. I did jump. That time because I'd overcome my fear of heights, and I had done it time and again. Now it wasn't that difficult for me to jump off a 10-meter board.
Right, Commander, we'll now talk about your life in the Navy, what it's like to be a young officer, and of course what you've done over the years, but after a quick break.
Since we're talking about the 500, why don't we talk about its spiritual successor, which you have ridden, the Royal Enfield Classic 650 Twin. I think we should get to that in a bit, but can you give us like a little hint of what's that bike about?
It's the spiritual successor of the Classic 500.
End of.
Definitely the spiritual successor of the 500.
Sure.
And initially I had thought that they will put the 411 engine into a classic frame and call it the spiritual successor, but no, they have not.
Right.
They've gone the full length and they've done the 650. If you like the classic or the bullet, you just can't not turn around when you park that bike.
Right.
For me, if you've parked a bike and not looked back, doesn't work. Point one sorted. Design. If you like retro motorcycles, you cannot but turn around for a classic 650. You might be a naysayer, which is fine. I mean, there are people who will say, what bullshit. No, it's okay. If you like a good-looking motorcycle, it's a good-looking motorcycle. Whether you like to enjoy riding it or not is a different point.
Correct.
But is it a good-looking motorcycle? Yes, it is. Even after all these years.
Right.
The classic still exudes that. The 650 does that too.
Right.
And they've made certain little things, like the switch cube is chrome.
Okay.
Right? The triple clamp is beautifully crafted chrome. Absolute. Like, it's a polisher's delight. Like, you have to keep that bike clean. It's like the Parsi Valley Bawa. You go before ride you clean, after ride you clean.
Right.
So that is what you have to do. So as far as design is concerned, it's epic. It just looks fantastic. Next is performance. Now, being a 500 owner, I used to miss out on the top end. Right? Anything above 80 and bike का तो पता नहीं मेरा nut bolt ढीला होता था. It would vibrate like crazy.
Yeah.
But 650 twin doesn't. It's absolutely makhan.
Even compared to its own 650 siblings?
Yes. It is, I don't know why, but I felt it to be smoother than the Super Meteor and the Shotgun.
Welcome back. I'm with Commander Naveen Pandita, and for the first half of this episode, we've talked about your childhood, your training in the RIMC and the National Defense Academy. Now, I want to talk a bit about your life in the Navy itself, and especially why naval aviation. So you said, before the break, you were talking about how at the RIMC interview, when you were asked, you had said Indian Army, and you gave this quotable quote. I think we should print it and paste it somewhere. That I was born on Earth, so I think I can serve my country best on Earth. Fantastic quote by the commander. So you did that, but at some point, I'm guessing in an NDA, you I think may have made a choice for the Navy, and specifically within the Navy, you chose to be part of naval aviation. Why and how did that happen?
Okay, while after I joined the Navy, the standard procedure is after you join the Navy, you opt for naval aviation. However, the actual motivation came long time back when I was in RIMC. So on a Saturday night, we were shown a movie, Top Gun. This was 1993, yeah. So I was so impressed by Lieutenant Pete Mitchell that time. So I ended up on a Sunday, I went on Liberty. The first thing, I rushed to the nearest Archie's gallery, got the poster and stuck it in my cupboard. So that was the motivation where it all started from. Least did I know that, while I wanted to join the naval aviation, no research done because there was no internet that time. I didn't know that Lieutenant Pete Mitchell was part of the US Navy and not the Indian Navy. And so it is only in NDA that I realized that after you join the Navy, because while you fill up the forms for National Defense Academy, you're supposed to give you a choice of service. So I had given as Navy, motivated by Lieutenant Pete Mitchell. So after NDA, after I joined the, from NDA, when I went to Tir Krishna, you have a cadets training phase for almost 6 months, wherein that story is for a later date to tell you that how that training progressed. So I was a midshipman on INS Mumbai in
Okay.
Mumbai after my cadets training phase. And there's a signal which comes out for volunteering for aviation, for submarines, logistics and everything. So, I was waiting, desperately waiting that when will the time come and I will join the naval aviation. So one fine day, the signal is something like in the corporate internal job postings,
Right,
like,
right, right.
so that signal came in from age bracket of so and so, anybody who wants to volunteer for naval aviation. And I got a hand at it, and I was so happy that finally the time has come. I now want to move into aviation. So I did apply for it, and after medicals, pilot aptitude test, and
Mm.
everything. So there was a time when we do our sub-lieutenant technical courses,
Mm.
which is after you become sub-lieutenant, the first rank in the Indian Navy. There are courses of almost 11 months. That is the time when the final list came in that you've been selected for aviation, and now you need to go and do pre-flying training. So after pre-flying training is over, then you join the batch at Allahabad, those days Bamroli Air Force Station, which is in Prayagraj now. So this was how I got motivated. The story doesn't end here. There were 2-3 things which I wanted to achieve as per the Top Gun. First thing was, buying a bike.
Okay. Of
So
course.
I did buy a bike. I had an Yamaha Enticer, that was the latest model available that time in the town. So I bought that. But least did I realize that while Pete Mitchell is going to fight a town, to San Diego on his bike, I will have to pack my bike, load it in the railway, one of the compartments, and then unload it in Bamroli, Allahabad, and then join report to the Air Force station. So that one dream of buying the bike, okay, that happened.
Right.
But how I reached Bamroli was a different story. Then they'd also shown something known as the astrophysicist Kelly McGillis.
Yes.
Now, we didn't have any Kelly McGillis in Allahabad during training. All we got was Dubeji, who used to give us anda burji and bread, and the same menu for the next 6 months. Third thing was, Pete Mitchell singing in the bar in the evening,
Yes.
And all we had was Servo Dhaba, which was on the highway. And it was so cold those days in Bamroli. They were literally freezing, There was no chilling and vibing, as the new generation says. We were only freezing and, somehow managing to eat that food, that menu, other than what Dubeji had to offer us in the morning, that same anda burji and, bread. And the last thing, of course, the Pete Mitchell also, by the end of the episode, he made friends with Kelly McGillis, so-called his girlfriend. Thereafter. So that girlfriend also had to be found. So I had a childhood sweetheart. That is more related. That I had achieved even before,
Nice.
joining Bamroli Allahabad. So this is how I went into aviation.
You've spent a large part of your life in the Indian Navy in maritime reconnaissance. You told me that among the planes that you've flown are the Dornier and the Illusion. Both of them used largely for maritime reconnaissance, and also I'm guessing a bit of anti-submarine warfare, if I'm not wrong. So, Commander, tell us what was your life like in the Indian Navy? And when I say life, like I don't mean like a sort of an overarching summary of your around, I think, 20 years,
21, yeah.
25, yeah, 21 years in the Indian Navy, during which I think you've changed places 15 times. That's quite something. 15 transfers in 21 years. So what was like a day to day for you? You were part of the reconnaissance branch of the Indian Navy. So what was like a day to day for you, and what are like some of your most memorable moments from the Indian Navy?
So, I was commissioned in the executive branch. Now, aviation forms part of the executive branch. So, I had to serve time at sea. I also had to serve time at the air squadron. That is how I was privileged to, in fact, I was given, it was an honor to command a warship also, as well as an air squadron. Now, these two places, the dynamics are completely different. Like in an aircraft, in today's date, if I go for a mission, I will go in for 4 hours, 8 hours, depending on the type of aircraft I am going in. So I carry a crew of 5, I carry a crew of 8, depending on my mission and everything. So exactly after those 8 hours or 5 hours, I'm back on land. I will pick up the phone, switch it on, give a call to my wife and, or my mother, whomever I want to speak to. But when you're board a ship, you're carrying, depending on the size of the ship. Like I commanded a ship which had 110 men with me and 10 officers. So that is one small ship. That is a 60-meter ship. But the second in command of the guided missile frigate Gomti, we had 315 people on board on the ship. And now you're carrying them. It's ship in itself is it's a city in itself. You have the barber shop, you have living spaces, you have eating and dining places, you have recreational facilities, you're living off the ship basically. And the deployments are ranging from anywhere to 15 days to 5 days to 3 months, depending on what kind of a mission. Is it a mission based deployment? Is it a patrolling of the Gulf where the piracy happens? So depending on the mission, you are away from the base port. When you reach the base port, so you're getting in touch with your families. I'm just trying to give you a human angle to all of it. So of course you'll pick up the phone and you will speak to your whomever, your near and dear one. Now why I said the dynamics are completely different, although in both the cases I was responsible for the safety of the aircraft, men, material, whatever existed in the squadron. Same is the case with ship. But here in this case, I was always on board the ship with them.
Yes.
Whereas in an aircraft, I would send a crew which would take on that particular mission. And what, I remember some of my friends way back in 2016 on a Sunday had visited my ship, as guests. I wanted to show them this is how the ship looks from inside. They were surprised. And then when when you board a ship, it is through a gangway. And ship is a very dynamic platform. It's on water. That means it will roll, it will pitch, and at high seas, and wherein you have more of rolling, more of pitching, it's not a normal feeling for a human being. Like I remember my first 6 months of training on board INS Krishna, I was having nausea for first couple of months. I didn't want to eat anything. I used to feel hungry, but I didn't want to eat anything because I had the fear that I'll just throw up. The ship will start rolling and pitching, and I will throw up. But over a period of time, exposure to something, you get over that seasickness. Similar is the case with air sickness. Now, while I was being trained in HPT 32 was the aircraft in Air Force Station, when I did aerobatics for the first time, similar was the case. The feeling, because you're experiencing negative G, you're experiencing positive G, but your body gets used to it over a period of time. The other thing, the major difference between the dynamics of a ship and aircraft. Now in aircraft, you are looking at split-second reactions.
Yes.
So that means your mental faculties have been working every second. Because if you mess up something, it will cost you, let alone the aircraft, it will cost you the lives, who are with you and your own life. Whereas in the ship, we have ship handling. But when you go to high seas in bad weathers, you have storms, you have to, there's a science behind it. You don't enter a storm, you'll have to try. You're trying to, navigate through waters which will not be affected by the storm. But the kind of stress and strain which happens on a ship at sea is, it's like, imagine in a galley. Galley is a place where the food is cooked. So the dal is kept on one stove and the rice is kept on one stove. The ship rolls so much at times when the seas are bad, you will get a khichdi automatically because it'll mix. Yeah, it happens. Your or cabins, where the officers stay or the men, we use ropes It's called securing. We use ropes to secure our. Everything works on computers nowadays. We
Yes.
also have to work on computer. In addition to a mouse, in addition to a desktop, a CPU, there are ropes, there are velcros which are holding them back. So this again is a different story. So it is for a normal human being. If you ask me, I have moved from ship to aircraft to ship, because you have to do your mandatory sea tenures at every rank. So I have seen this, I have seen that as well. This may not, the securing thing may not happen in the aircraft per se. So if I leave, this is the professional aspect. You mentioned that I have got transferred 15
Yes.
in 15 times out of my
21 years,
21
yeah.
years. So my AC, which costed me the air conditioner split AC, I bought in 2013. The AC which costed me 30,000 in 2013 is worth 1.3 lakhs right now, because the times it has been removed, the times it has been fitted back, the conduits, the pipes. So it's for an economist, if you ask him, or for a CA, it's a depreciating asset.
Yes.
But no, not for me. It's only growing because the amount of money I have spent. I've stopped using an AquaGuard now, because how many times will I remove and fix the same AquaGuard? And somebody asked me, do you unpack or do you pack? You still unpack things? I said, now I've gotten used to it. Every time I go to a new station, I have to make my life comfortable. I will unpack everything. I will pack everything. It's become a drill. It's become a standing operating procedure. There are checklists in place. I know exactly. My phone has 31 numbers of people, electricians, and people fitting ACs, AC Bangalore wala, AC Porbandar wala, Mumbai wala, Rafiq, Vinod. And half of my contact list is filled with electrician numbers and plumbers numbers, because I have shifted houses every year. So I think that should answer your question, how exactly it happens.
Right, it's a great story actually, and I was so caught up in listening to you and your stories that for a brief moment when you said AC, by the way, I thought you were talking about some naval term, and I was like, "Achha, he's actually talking about an AC." Commander, I wanted to ask you about Dornier and Illusion. You've flown the Dornier 228 and you've flown the Illusion 38. I can see a badge on on a lapel pin right now on your suit. I can't make it. I think it's a Dornier
It's a
right now.
Dornier,
It's a Dornier, right. So for our listeners who cannot see the video, he's actually wearing a golden collar pin that has the Dornier on it. So I wanted to ask you. No, I know, like, are pilots very very attached to the aircraft that they fly, and I wanted to ask you of how nostalgic are you about the Illusion. The reason I asked that is because the Illusion was actually retired by the Indian Navy in October 2023, which is just a couple of months, 2-3 months before you retired from the service yourself. So how nostalgic you may have been in that month. I mean, I'm not sure if you were flying towards the fag end of your service, but you bringing back memories. Kya yaar, मैंने चलाया था, अब चला गया. And between the two, which one are you more fond of?
Okay, if you ask any pilot, first thing is the design philosophy of an aircraft. Dornier was actually manufactured in Germany initially. Now it is,
Yes.
of course, produced by
HAL.
HAL here. And Illusion 38, as everybody knows, is a Russian aircraft. So completely different machineries. And if you compare the sizes, of course, the Dornier only has 2 engines and it's 6,400 kg, 6.4 tons. And Illusion 38 is a 66-ton 4-engined reconnaissance aircraft. Now, if you ask me, most challenging, the biggest challenge I had was with the IL-38. It wasn't easy to tame this aircraft. And I've had some memorable incidents with the Illusion 38 as well. So the first time when I actually, in an IL-38, not many people will know, you don't have to climb the cockpit from the side. You have to climb the cockpit from the belly.
Okay.
And first time when I climbed up and I saw the cockpit layout inside, there are circuit breakers everywhere. It's a dark military green cockpit, and those seats have parachutes on under it. So it was a different feeling. I said, how am I going to tame this aircraft? And it took me time, because there are procedures, there are proper type procedures. You have to, for starting the aircraft, there's a procedure. You have to start engine number 2, 1, 3, 4 in a sequence. And every time you have to run the engines for some time before you actually going for your missions. This one of the missions I remember vividly was you had to switch off one engine mid-air. So now you come back and land on 3 engines.
3 engines.
So weather was okay. I would not say okay. It was marginal in terms chota mota clouds and everything. And Goa is very unpredictable, and this was sometimes in April, May, when the pre-monsoon showers are yet to come. So I went with one of my co-pilots. We did that mission and switched off one of the engines, and now we are coming back for landing. And now the ATC is reporting a rain squall approaching. So now we can see the runway. It's okay. And as we come on the short finals, as soon as we touch down, the rain is just passing the aircraft and the runway. And for exactly, I would say, 5 to 7 seconds, there is zero visibility.
Wow.
I have one engine shut down. I'm, operating on 3 engines. The controllability, of course, because when it's a big aircraft, the momentum of the aircraft, and with one engine, asymmetric thrust,
Yes.
more thrust from this side and less. So the controllability is again an issue. So for the next 7 seconds, I wish I knew the whole Hanuman Chalisa. I think I would have rattled out the whole Hanuman Chalisa, because I couldn't see anything. It was absolutely blank. But fortunately, the qualified flying instructors in your training have taught you so well, and it's come into the muscle memory. I just kept the pedals, rudder pedals straight, and just hoping like hell that I'm actually not veering out of the runway. And then finally, of course, the rain squall passed by. I had a clear patch, and I could literally feel that कि यार मेरी overall ना पूरी गीली हो चुकी है. And it's an air conditioned environment. It's not that because those 7 seconds of whether you're going to be alive at the end of it, where will the aircraft wear? Am I holding the rudder pedal? Because there's no visual reference or indication that I'm moving straight. So these are the two memorable ones. I thought I'll just make it a point to tell you
Wow.
these days.
Yeah. I'm guessing they did not have Cat 3 landing system back then.
No, irrespective of fact, even if you have
Of
Cat
course,
3
you
landing
would be-
system, the aircraft is supposed to be having something known as the new aircraft, newer
Yes.
generation of aircraft, auto landing
Auto land,
system.
yeah.
So when you're an auto landing system, you are actually just monitoring, and the aircraft is actually doing it. But in this case,
You were the one flying it.
I was holding the rudder pedal straight so that I don't veer off the runway,
Yeah.
and it doesn't create a mishap.
I can get that, because I mean, you'd be feeling कि यार जरा सा मैंने गलत कुछ दबा दिया ना, कुछ हो जाएगा.
Oh yes, absolutely. And then you're responsible for yourself. There are people
Yeah.
sitting next to you too.
Right. Right, Commander. As we bring this episode to a close, I want to talk briefly about now again life outside the Navy. And we'll actually kind of go back to your childhood. But before we do that, just briefly about the last 2-3 years. You retired in 2023, is what you told me, December 23. So for the last 2-3 years, you've been back to civilian life. I think this is going to be a standard question for anybody, any officer who's been in the forces. What's it like to transition out of the service and back into civilian life?
So I would say, the learning lessons from the forge, as I mentioned to you earlier, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So whatever's coming my way, honestly telling you, I've shifted cockpits. The focus always remains the same. If I have a sim session tomorrow, if I have a sortie, my focus will only remain up to that place, and then I will take on the next. But yes, otherwise I do miss my I do miss my uniform. I'm still in love with whites. Whites is my favorite color. And yes, I still, maybe shed a tear if I see an emotional scene about Forge on the movie in a Bollywood flick or something like that. But otherwise, I think 21 years is a long time, and the Forge has taught me well. Adaptability which it gives me. I shifted 15 locations, so I know exactly किस दुकान पे कौन सी चीज मिल रही है. I think I'll be able to navigate it well.
Yeah. I like your point about the whites, because I still have that memory. So my SSB board was was a Navy board in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. And so, I mean, if, our listeners and viewers, people who've attempted SSB, they'd know this. The assessors don't wear uniform uniforms in the first 4 days. They actually are in civilian clothes so that they can kind of give this informal vibe. But on the day of the conference, every one of those officers is wearing their uniforms. And when you walk into that, and when I saw 12 of them sitting in that U-shaped tape on that U-shaped table and in that all white uniform, that was something else. So this is somebody who could not be in the forces. So if I can feel that, and somebody who's been there, obviously I can understand how you must have felt. Right. So we want to go back to now to your childhood with the benefit of your life now, with the benefit of hindsight, with the benefit of your 21 years of naval experience, and just like, adulthood normally. During the break that we took, you were talking about Adolescence, the Netflix hit show, and how that kind of really made you connect back with your childhood, which was a bit, I could not really understand, but I told you, like, just hold. Let's talk about this during the episode for the benefit of our listeners and viewers. So, now that you look back at your childhood, not just at the Exodus, not just during that period when your family had to move from Kashmir to Jammu, but also earlier when you were ill, like you said, when you had to be homeschooled, you've not really had a conventional childhood. You, like you said, weren't really interacting with much with outside world, and when you had just begun interacting is when your kind of world was all uprooted, and then you had to completely switch bases, so to speak. How is it that adolescence hits you and brings you memories of that? And like I said, now that you look back, what is it that you would want to tell a 6-year-old, 7-year-old Naveen after the benefit that you have of living your life?
Okay, I'll take on the first question, the adolescence part of it. When I watched this series on Netflix, now the protagonist in this is Jamie Miller, if I'm not wrong with the name, and he is a 13-year-old boy who's been charged with murder. Now that is not the point here. I was a 2-year-old boy when I was, detected with nephrotic syndrome. So things like when you have something, out of the box, or I will not say out of the box. I say if one of your family members has a special condition, how it affects him and how does it affect your whole family. Now in Netflix series, if you notice that there's an episode on what the parents went through.
Yeah.
And one episode what his elder sister went through, and in one episode what the boy himself goes through. So if I break down my life from 2 years to exactly 8 years of age, more so between 2 to 6. Now as a child, what do you look forward to? You look forward to playing. I wasn't playing. I was at home. People eat candies. The children like to ice creams, chocolates. That was not part of my diet ever. And people, children got bruises by playing, cricket, or whatever they played in parks or something like that. But I only had bruises. I had syringe marks all over my arms because so many blood tests were done on me. Children, how do you entertain them? In today's date, of course, leave today's world because you hand over a gadget and the child is happy. In those days, they used to play in parks. They used to visit circuses. They used to go to movies. That was not the case for me. I only engaged in medical tourism. I have visited all the hospitals in Jammu and Kashmir, and I've been to Delhi AIMS twice. I have undergone 2 biopsies of my kidney to check whether I'm hitting normalcy or not. I've had a failed biopsy. And, there's no, so the kind of trauma which I must have undergone, that also helped me because my food wasn't a normal food. I was given boiled food without salt. Even salt wasn't allowed to me. Sour, sweet things, these were out of syllabus for me. So I think that disciplined me a lot while I was a child. I would not, what my parents tell me is, I never fought for it. Because I think in mind of my minds, I realized that, there's something, which is not right with me. I think that is why my parents are, stopping me from eating all this, and they're not bringing it. In fact, my sisters never ate anything which could, tempt me at home. The home environment. In fact, the biggest thing which hit me was my self-confidence was absolutely shattered. I never liked to look myself in the mirror because nephrotic syndrome causes something known as your body bloats, your limbs, your face, and your eyes. You're actually a bloated child who may weigh only 21 to 23 kgs, but you're actually appearing to be a 50 kg baby. That is the kind of bloating which happens. Now this is, if I take, I'm just breaking it down, this is my condition. My sisters, while I was engaging in religious and medical tourism, my parents had to be along. They can't carry, the sisters cannot be in the tow. So they were left sometimes with friends, sometimes with relatives. And at that point of time, when they needed the parental guidance maximum, so they lost out on, that. And the kind of time which my parents should have spent with them, playing with them, or, studying or entertaining, anything of that sort, that didn't happen at all. So they had a troubled childhood, not because they were unwell, because their younger sibling was unwell. Now, if I move on to my parents, if you just Google in 1983, what could be the pay of my mother was a teacher, my father was. So effectively, when I totaled it, I asked my mom and dad, what was your salary? And now when I look at it, it didn't cross 1,000 rupees in 1983, 84. Now the kind of taxi bills they had to pay those days, the medical supplies which used to come, my house looked like a mini hospital. It's just that my mom and dad never wore lab coats. I'm honestly telling you. And this memory is so etched in my brain. I till date remember what medicines I used to eat. I used to eat a stack of pills, 12 to 14 pills a day. I used to be on diuretics. The diuretics used to make you go to washroom quite often. And that is the only time when you consume these medicines. And, by mistake, if you have consumed the wrong pill, if you Google, if you have excess of diuretics, what can happen to a human being? So that is how my childhood has been. And I think I'm thankful to my parents and my sisters, that whatever I am in today had their support, their love and affection. If that had not, been there, I don't think so you would have been speaking to Commander Naveen Pandita, a veteran now, who's had 21 years in the service. So a different ball game. You asked me something else and I completely forgot about it.
I asked you that with the benefit of your career in the Navy, with the benefit of leading your life, what is that one thing you would want to tell yourself back then, 8-9 years old Naveen?
I think on a serious note, I would say I will tell that boy that, he joined the forces all over again. And, it's an amazing time. I've had the best time in the forces.
Yeah.
And that adrenaline rush which you get in the forces, I don't think so. No, I'm not aware because I've not explored other possibilities. But I think the adrenaline rush I got throughout my 21 years of service, I would want it all over again. And on a lighter note, I would advise him that please, this time when you see Lieutenant Pete Mitchell going to San Diego on a bike, please do some research. It is not San Diego you're going to Bumroli, and you will have to put your bike in the train baggage.
Yeah, actually, I could actually sense that passion during our entire talk right now. So I had great fun, Commander. Just a couple of last very quick points as we end this episode. 2-3 questions actually. One, ship पे खाना कैसा होता है?
I think दुनिया में अगर कहीं सबसे बढ़िया खाना होता है ना, वो शिप पे होता है.
अच्छा.
Amazing. The food is good because you heard of that quote, na? Army marches on its stomach.
Yes, of course.
So it is whether any galley, the food is out of the naval food as such is wonderful.
Okay.
The all kind of cuisines you'll get to eat, and the best of the food you can get. And if some people feel so hungry on the ship, they eat twice. So that is the story. Until unless, when the ship is rolling and pitching heavily, that is the time when you generally stick to khichdi, dahi and all that. So that otherwise the food is great.
Right. One more. What is with pilots and their obsession with Ray-Bans? Is there some practical purpose? Is that pair of sunglasses actually better than everything else in the world? Or is it just, again, going back to Top Gun?
See, I would say that, I picked up my first set of wayfarers.
Yes.
No, not the wayfarers, the aviators.
Aviators.
Because Lieutenant Pete Mitchell wore that in Top Gun. But otherwise, we did have a chat among the pilots at time, and we found out that Ray-Bans, when it came to the market, it was the only reliable brand which could save you from when you're 10,000 feet or 30,000 feet up above. The UV rays, they're really effective. I don't know, you will not notice it. I will show it to you now. I have more wrinkles on my right hand side than my left side.
Actually,
Because
yes.
this has been exposed more to UV rays.
Wow.
The aging is happening more on my right side than my left side.
Wow.
So the Ray-Bans in those days used to be the most authentic or reliable source of
Protection.
glasses. Of course, that doesn't mean that I wear a Ray-Ban in the party late at night. But yes, generally that is why the aviators do wear the sunglasses quite often.
Yeah, right. And one final question, and this is for the commercial pilot in you and not the naval pilot.
Okay.
When we fly commercial, there's a point when the pilot comes on and tells the passengers about the height the plane is flying at. At times, the pilot will talk about the speed the plane is flying at, or the kind of weather. I can understand. But ये जान के passengers क्या करेंगे?
Okay. So you will be surprised that a lot of people like to be involved in whatever they do. And I don't know whether you've flown overseas in Etihad, Emirates, Air India.
haven't.
So when you see there's a moving map display,
Yes.
so that keeps you involved. Some people really do want to know that if I've taken off at 7:30 in the evening, am I actually going to land in? If I've taken off from Delhi at 7:30, am I actually going to land at 10 o'clock in? Some people are like that, and some people like to get involved. And this, we've spoken to a lot of people, and there are more people saying yes to it than no. And then any information is always a good information. But then it is generally trying to keep the whole environment alive to the situation that, we are flying at 35,000 feet. Don't ask me to open the door now.
Right. Commander, I think we'll end it there. An awesome chat, a fun chat, and had lots of fun. I loved your enthusiasm. I loved your passion and what you said about the adrenaline rush that you get from being in the service, from being in the forces. I could sense that when you were talking. So thank you so much. I hope you had a great time. I think this was your first podcast experience.
The second.
The second one. So I hope you had a great time with us. And thank you once again so much for your inspiring story.
I think I had a great time having a chat with you. I felt at home. And, all your boys and girls here, they made me feel at home before even you came in. So I think I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you, Commander. That's it for this week's Defense Dose. For more, tune in next week. Till then, stay safe and do not cross any boundaries with our passport. Bye-bye.